Can you remember material from 15 years ago?
Well, I'm more or less doing the same stuff.
Oh, I set you up for that.
Hey, Mark.
Mate, I thought it's very cold outside. I thought you'd have a coat on or something.
You know,
it's almost as if this isn't genuine and we've faked it somehow. Anyway, come on in.
No,
come on. Come on.
You bastard.
I am rolling.
The initial thing was Steve Best shoots comedians. That is how you started, but you didn't really. You were acting as well, weren't you? What's your early days?
Acting first, slightly wanky community theatre. you know the theatre company in League of Gentlemen,
Yeah.
Legs Akimbo. We were that theatre company.
Okay.
And we would travel around doing, theatre and education and community theatre, all very right on, which reached its zenith of kind of self-righteous awfulness in a shopping centre in Coventry, where we were all in dungarees doing some show, and we held 2 minutes silence, the dead of Hiroshima. And I just remember people walking past the porch, what are they doing? And it was like, well, just stood there like that. And then moved to London and just started doing telly and lots of shows, ironically considering what I do now, playing coppers and villains, Juliet Bravo, Dempsey and Makepeace, The Bill, all that kind of stuff.
So, but it was the acting before the stand.
Yeah. And then when the acting started to dry up, which inevitably it does, and I used to go see stand-up. Me and my mate Mike, we used to go to a comedy club in South London, Brixton, every weekend. And eventually we went, let's have a go at this. And this was in the days when it was like sort of cabaret. So you'd see all sorts of weird and wonderful people.
Jugglers and...
Oh God, jugglers and bands and special acts and all sorts of stuff.
Thank you very much.
That's
special acts.
Special acts. Yeah, there was always one cheap special act on. So we thought, let's have a crack at this. And this would have been in about 1987. And it was kind of easy to get into then. So we formed this musical double act called the Tracy Brothers. This would have been in about 1987, when you could sort of get onto the comedy circuit. We did a couple of tryout spots, and then within a few months we were playing at the Comedy Store and doing radio and stuff, and you could do that then.
Well, and there was less people doing that, I suppose that's why it was easier.
But also a lot more clubs. There were a lot more clubs.
There were a lot more clubs then?
Yeah, you could do 2 or 3 shows every Friday, every Saturday, at different venues. And during the week, you're going up and down the country doing universities and all that sort of stuff.
It was a circuit where you can make a really good living and not be famous. And that's the big thing that's changed. The money hasn't gone up for 20 years.
I know, it's astonishing, isn't it? It's
so you don't miss those days, really?
I don't. I miss the 20 minutes on stage or the 40 minutes on stage sometimes. You miss that buzz. I still hang around with comics. I see comics like you all the time. And
we'll talk about that in a minute.
I still play poker with a bunch of comics. But I don't miss sitting in a shitty dressing room 2 a.m. I don't miss going up and down the motorway. It's a funny old life, isn't it? I mean, comics are weird. Do you not think?
Well, the nature of why people go into it, comedian-wise, is...
You're essentially standing on stage going, love me, love me, love me. I mean, it's been 15 years since I last did stand-up. I've been writing.
Gig?
My last gig was an English pub in Bangkok.
I'd
sort of decided I was going to stop. And you don't want your last gig to be dying on your backside in some shitty club somewhere at 2 a.m. And I was doing this tour of like Hong Kong and Thailand or whatever, out there with Mike Gunn, who's a good mate, both of us. And we just did a great show. And I went, that'll do. I thought that is a good place to stop. So it can be just horrible. There is nothing like a terrible death.
So that is the fun-loving crime writers.
Yes.
You don't have to pigeonhole yourself, do you? I mean, you love the guitar, and you've always been playing the guitar.
It's not just about wanting to do different things. It's also wanting to collaborate with people, because writing, obviously, solitary by nature.
Same with stand-up.
I spend my whole life on my own, in my own head, making stuff up.
The thing is that you think that everybody wants to be rock and roll.
Yeah.
And be comedians, writers as well.
I mean, without sounding immodest, we've sold a lot of books between us and won a lot of awards and all that. But that hour and a half we spent on stage at Glastonbury in 2019 was just, that's what we talk about. That is what we talk about,
It's
that kind
amazing,
of
isn't it?
bucket list thing. We're all fighting as to who gets to be the one that goes, hello Glastonbury! So we all did it, you know.
And you also do, you were saying you do a bit of a funny tour with Chris Brookmeyer.
Yeah, Chris Brookmeyer is a good mate of mine who's in the band. We'd done a bunch of events together over the years. There'd always be bits of funny stuff, and eventually we just went, why don't we do a show that's just those bits?
Right.
We spent a whole section just talking about terrible, reading out 1-star reviews.
Lovely.
I mean, some of them are just ridiculous. I haven't read the book, it belongs to my husband, 1 star. What kind of a review is that?
Yeah.
You know, or just, this is unbridled filth. People that don't like the swearing. I get a lot of complaints, often from Americans, it has to be said. But I did get one that said, you know, dear Mr. Billingham, I've read all your books up to now and enjoyed them. However, I read the first 2 pages of this one and I threw it away. Right? Having spent several years in the Royal Navy, I am well used to the word, but anybody who sees fit to use this word 3 times in 2 pages needs a serious look at a dictionary. Right? Now, I don't normally respond to those emails, but he'd spelt dictionary wrong. He'd spelt dictionary wrong, I promise. So I wrote back going, dear sir, you know, if you'd stuck with the book, you'd have seen that the use of the word was justified, and maybe on reflection, you're the one that needs a dictionary, then you'd know how to spell dictionary. You know, it's not what people expect at a book festival. I think that's why we do it. Once I started writing books, it took me ages to get used to that disconnect between when the work is done and the book goes out and you have no idea how it's being received. When you tell a joke, you know straight away if it's worked, and you know straight away if it hasn't worked. But with a book, no idea. By the time the books come out, you've almost forgotten, because there's like a year or something between when you finish it and then it finally appears in bookshops and stuff. You've already written something else by then. I'll get emails from readers wanting to know about something that happened in my 7th book. And I genuinely have to go, I have no idea. You know, who was the killer? I never understood. And I go, I'm certainly not going to go back and read it.
I don't know if it's with its age or not, but I just, you know, you read some classics, and even then you think, I can't remember the characters, I can't remember really what it was about.
Can you remember material from 15 years ago?
Well, I'm more or less doing the same stuff.
Oh, I set you up for that.
Poker.
Yes, poker.
So I was thinking about this because I started it, I was thinking it must have been 2003, and then you took over the diary of booking, of getting our boys together.
Yeah.
I look forward to that more than... So, what is it with it?
It's great. I mean, it's just, I mean, we all love the game, we all love playing, because you're all comics. It's nice to hear what's going on, and a lot of moaning. Oh, there's a lot of moaning.
About the circuit, or
yeah, but I think comics always moaned. It's a slightly moany industry, and now they're moaning not just about, oh, you know, this dressing room's terrible or blah blah blah. It's genuine moaning about the fact that, as you say, the money hasn't gone up in forever, and you know, there's terrible promoters around. There's some terrible acts around that you get put on with. All that stuff, because all you guys have been doing it for a long time, you know, too long, some people would say.
I think so. But what is it about poker that is so...
There's a kind of adrenaline rush. I like to think that I'm quite methodical and patient, but I lose it.
Yeah.
I lose it. You have a couple of bad beats and you go, and you just think, where did that come from? Grow up.
Influences, comedy, influence in stand-up, anything that sort?
I think we've both been lucky enough to work through a fairly golden age of stand-up. So I've worked with some amazing stand-ups. We've worked with, you know, people like Sean Locke and Bill Bailey, and who are the kind of stand-ups that I used to really be jealous of, because, not just because they're brilliant, but they're fearless. You and I, you go on stage, somebody heckles, a little part of you freezes. Little part of you just goes, oh, shut up. You know, you'd watch somebody heckle the likes of Sean Locke and Bill Bailey, and you watch them kind of come to life and go, oh, let's play. I've always just been envious of that.
Mr. Mark Billingham, we got
Yes, Mr. Steve
what's
Best.
the time?
Half an hour.
We've got half.
In fact, we should have been playing poker half an hour ago.
Yeah.